For 2 straight weeks, I've been dreaming about our student government president, Clara Hayes. At first, I was timid, testing the waters. But once I realized it was a dream, I let myself go completely. I was calling her babe and honey, holding her, kissing her. Hey, it was my dream. If I wasn't going to be the scoundrel, who would? Then, one day, the real her asked me, "You're not nearly as bold as you are in your dreams, are you?" Damn it, I had my pants off this time. I was one step away from victory. I woke up again, hard as a rock and aching. I debated becoming a master of my own domain, but decided against it. I'm picky about my porn, and by the time I found the right video, the mood would be long gone. Today was Saturday, no classes, but some genius in student government scheduled a 9 a.m. moving detail to prep for Sunday's fall festival. I dragged myself through my morning routine, shuffled out of my off-campus apartment, and grabbed a couple of breakfast burritos from a street cart, munching on them as I walked to campus. I'm a sophomore now, a full year into my sentence with the Student Government Association. Honestly, I'd wanted to quit for ages. It's just too much damn work. But if you stick it out for 2 years, you get a few extra credits, so I gritted my teeth and carried on. The only thing keeping me going was that our president, Clara Hayes, was a drop-dead, gorgeous sight for sore eyes. And luckily, I was assigned to her committee, so we shared the same office hours. Getting to look at her every day was a small consolation for the drudgery. Speaking of which, I only lasted a month in the campus dorms before I had to get out of there. The reason? One night, I heard my roommate talking in his sleep. He whispered my name with this soul-bearing affection, then added, very seriously, "Lift your ass a little higher." I was so freaked out that I was looking for apartments the very next day. I heard he was pretty bummed after I moved. That sneaky bastard. What the hell? An ass is for shitting, period. I finished my burrito just as I reached the SGA office. I checked the time. Only 8:40. I figured the office would be empty, but when I pushed the door open, Clara was already there. "Morning, Prez," I said, try to sound casual as I sat down at my desk next to hers. A delicate, elegant scent drifted over, her scent. I faked a stretch, taking the opportunity to get a good, deep lungful of it. God, I'm such a creep. Another beautiful day begins with gracefully slacking off next to the president. I expertly pulled out my phone, my body sitting ramrod straight while my screen was already queued up to TikTok. I was scrolling through videos when she suddenly said, "Can I borrow a pen?" I grabbed one from the pen holder and handed it to her, but she fumbled to catch. The pen clattered to the floor and rolled into the deepest corner under the sofa. I got down and reached for it, but I couldn't get close. I had to ask her to use her phone's flashlight to guide me. A little further in. Yeah, right there. You're almost there. Push, go a little deeper. Okay, you can pull it out now. It's a little dirty, you should wipe it off. Finally, I retrieved the pen. Man, that thing had fallen deep. I was panting from the effort. I stood up to open the door for some air, but when I pulled it open, 3 other SGA members were standing right outside, staring at me with expressions of pure shock. The vice president's face was as black as thunder, his eyes boring into me. I knew him, Troy Donovan, the guy with the biggest power trip in the whole organization, who acted like running the student council was the same as running the State Department. Rumor was he'd asked Clara out and gotten shot down hard. What was going on? Did I look exceptionally handsome today? Everyone was just staring. Confused, I stepped aside to let them in. We quickly divided up the tasks. Throughout the meeting, Troy kept shooting these venomous looks my way. I was completely baffled. When the hell did I piss this asshole off? When it came time to assign duties, he deliberately gave me all the dirtiest, most strenuous jobs. Moving the sound system, climbing ladders to hang banners, while he, in his own words, would be overseeing and coordinating. I was about to protest when Clara spoke up. "Is it really appropriate to give one person all the hard labor?" she said. "I'll help him. That's final." Since the president had spoken, I couldn't say anything more. I just shot Troy a smug look and silently mouthed the words, "Dumb ass." I could practically see his face flush red with anger. His jaw twitched, but he didn't dare blow up in front of Clara, forcing himself to swallow his rage. After the meeting, I hummed a little tune as I strolled home, ready for a nice nap to continue my grand dream quest with Clara. Who knows, maybe this afternoon, in my dream, I'd finally succeed? During my nap, I dreamed of her again, just as I'd hoped. Only this time, the scene had changed to the office. She was wearing a sharp, professional pantsuit, bent over to pick something up, her body forming a breathtaking curve. I couldn't help but swallow hard. This plot, this position, the beautiful president stuck under the sofa, this was a very interesting setup. I was rubbing my hands together, about to make my next move, when she suddenly looked up and recited a bizarre line of poetry. See you later, alligator. My brain short-circuited, and I blurted out the response. In a wild crocodile. The moment the words left my mouth, I snapped awake. What was that about? Since when did my dreams involve call and response nursery rhymes? I scratched my head, completely mystified. But while my mind was foggy, my little general was standing at full attention. I glanced down and sighed. It's no use, buddy. Give it up. I'm not touching you. The next day arrived, and I reported for duty as the designated grunt. Technically, Clara was supposed to be working with me, but I'm a man. How could I let a girl handle all this dirty, heavy work? So the tasks of hauling speakers and climbing up and down ladders fell squarely on my shoulders. By the time I was done, I was drenched in sweat. Troy, on the other hand, had spent the whole time with his hands in his pockets, sticking to Clara like glue and trying to make small talk. Clara, look at this weather. Clara, are you thirsty? Thankfully, Clara completely ignored him. She not only thoughtfully handed me a bottle of water, but also took out a tissue to wipe the sweat from my forehead when she saw how much I was sweating. That single gesture made Troy's eyes practically bug out of his head. He was seething. I don't get it. We're in college, but this fall festival was the same old tired routine. Poetry readings, a choir performance, and someone even sang a cringy, old-school, patriotic country song. I was dozing off in the audience until the freshman dance troupe came on stage. That woke me right up. Hot damn, it was a sea of legs. I was just getting into it when I realized Clara had come to stand next to me. I greeted her without looking away from the stage. Then, a voice behind me suddenly said, "See you later, alligator." Without a second thought, I replied, "In a wild crocodile." The words were barely out before it hit me. Wasn't that the rhyme for my dream? I whipped my head around. Clara was watching me with a sly smile, a smile that sent a chill down my spine. "So it really was you in my dreams," she said softly. My heart pounded. What was happening? Did she have the same dream too? Then all the things I did to her in those dreams. I'm screwed. What are you talking about, Prez? I don't understand, I said, playing dumb. What dream? Did you have a dream? I happen to be a pretty good palm reader. You want to take a look? She took a step forward. I instinctively took one back. She stepped forward again, and I retreated again, until my back hit the wall. Ethan, are you still going to pretend? She stared into my eyes. Are you going to tell me you haven't been having strange dreams lately? I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. It was just a dream, and I didn't know. Before I could finish, she closed the distance between us until we were practically touching. She looked up at me. You're so bold in your dreams, aren't you? Kissing me, holding me. Why are you so timid now? Too scared to kiss me. What did that mean? Was she challenging me? Daring me? I've never been one to back down from a challenge. My resolve hardened. I lowered my head and kissed her. She froze for a second and started to struggle, but I held her tight. Gradually, she stopped resisting and let me kiss her. What are you two doing? An ill-timed voice suddenly interrupted. It was our faculty advisor. We scrambled apart. He recognized us, paused for a moment, and then smiled. I went to college once, too. I get it. But you kids have to be mindful of the time and place, right? With that, he chuckled and walked away. Clara stood there, stunned, clearly not expecting me to actually go through with it. I was the first to speak. You dare me to, Prez. That was my first kiss, by the way. I guess I can take one for the team and grant your wish. She punched me on the back and ran off. I watched her retreating back, a little dazed. Oh well, what's done is done. Time to get back to the dancing. Wait, the performance is over. Damn it, I was so busy making out that I missed a whole stampede of freshman legs. But the real her lips were so soft, so sweet. Clara Hayes had a dream. She dreamed of Ethan Price, that kind of cute guy who shared her office hours. At first, she didn't think anything of it. But when she started dreaming about him for several days in a row, it started to feel strange. In the dream, he kept getting closer. It started with him just cautiously talking to her. Then he was leaning in to kiss her, calling her honey and babe. Such embarrassing nicknames. She wanted to push him away, but for some reason, the moment she touched him, all her strength vanished. She could only lie limply in his arms, letting him do as he pleased. And he, on the other hand, grew bolder by the day, his hands starting to wander. She couldn't fight back. She suddenly thought, maybe it's better this way. Since she couldn't resist, she might as well try to enjoy it. It was only a dream, after all. She slowly started to get used to it, and even started to look forward to it. But after 2 straight weeks of this dream, a thought occurred to her. What if he was having the same dream? She decided to test him. So, in the dream, she deliberately recited a line. And sure enough, he replied with the next one. In real life, while he was gawking at the freshman girls dancing on stage, she said it again. Just like in the dream, he responded without a second thought. Her suspicion was confirmed. He was having the same dream. She backed him into a corner, surprised by how shy he was in person. She couldn't resist teasing him. Too scared to kiss me? And the result? She tried to push him away, but that familiar feeling of weakness washed over her again. Thank God no one was watching. This was so mortifying. Oh no, the faculty advisors saw. And afterward, he had the nerve to say something shameless about his first kiss and taking one for the team. That jerk. He wasn't shy at all. She punched him on the back and ran away. Her hand kind of hurt. She wondered if he was hurt, too. So that's what kissing felt like. It was completely different from a dream. Her heart was pounding. Her breath was short. It was such a strange feeling. She pressed her lips together. Her face felt hot. Actually, it was kind of nice. That night, I tossed and turned in bed, my mind a mess. How was I supposed to face Clara now? This whole situation was way too complicated. But I quickly came to a conclusion. What's done is done. Now let's get some dinner. And if we actually started dating, wouldn't that be even better? Either way, I got my fill in the dream world and the real world. No matter how you looked at it, I came out ahead. I don't know if it was because I'd finally kissed her in real life and felt some sense of closure, but for the first time in weeks, I didn't dream of Clara Hayes. For 3 days, neither of us contacted the other. Fine by me. It was a messy situation to begin with, so letting it fade away quietly seemed like a good idea. But on Thursday afternoon, just as I was leaving class with my backpack slung over my shoulder, I spotted Clara waiting by the end of the hallway. She was wearing a simple white t-shirt, slim-fit jeans, and a pair of clean white sneakers. She looked as refreshing as a cool breeze on a summer day. Her high ponytail swung gently as she turned her head. She was basically dancing on every single one of my aesthetic preferences. Before I could say anything, she walked up and grabbed my wrist. We need to talk about that night. A few students around us immediately shot us looks that screamed, "Ooh, drama," especially my old roommate, the one who'd wanted me to lift my ass a little higher. His gaze was particularly intense. Seeing my audience, I immediately raised my voice. "Don't you worry. I, Ethan Price, am a man of my word. I will take full responsibility for what happened that night." Clara's face went crimson. She stomped her foot in embarrassment. "You don't say things like that." Then she quickly dragged me away, escaping the scene under the knowing gazes of the crowd. We found a quiet corner in a diner and sat down. After we ordered, she folded her hands on the table, sat up straight, and looked at me with a serious expression. "Ethan, we need to have a serious discussion about the dream." I chewed on my straw, nonchalantly sipping my boba tea. "What about the dream? I have all kinds of dreams every night. The other day, I dreamed I was a billionaire, and yesterday I dreamed I was Superman and could fly." "You know exactly what I'm talking about," she said, her brow furrowing slightly. The same dream we've been having for 2 weeks." I leaned in closer, a mischievous grin on my face. "Oh, you mean the one where I call you babe and honey and kiss and hold you? But Prez, we've already kissed in real life, haven't we?" 2 pink spots appeared on her cheeks, and even her earlobes turned pink, but she tried to maintain her composure. That's different. That was a sneak attack. I think we need to seriously define our relationship now." Seeing how serious she was, my heart suddenly started beating faster. I said, half joking and half serious, "You want to try going out?" "Okay." She answered so quickly and naturally that I nearly choked on my boba. I fumbled for a napkin to wipe my mouth. Wait. I was just spitballing here. Don't you want to think about it? I'm lazy, I'm a glutton, I skip class, and I'm always slacking off at my SGA duties." "I know all of that," she interrupted gently. "You skipped 2 classes this week. The banner you put up for the festival was crooked, and you're always secretly on your phone during your office hours." I was dumbfounded. "How do you—" "I've been thinking a lot these past few days," she said, looking down and stirring the lemon slices in her glass with her straw. "Why you of all people? Why would we have the same dream? And why, in the dream, did I not really hate it when you got close? Maybe this is fate." She looked up, a small smile on her face. "So we can give it a try." I felt like I was floating on a cloud, trying to confirm what I'd just heard. "So, are we like a thing now?" Hum. She nodded, her lips curving into a gentle arc. For the rest of the meal, I was in a complete daze. She ate in small, delicate bites, occasionally glancing up at me, only to shyly look down again when she met my intense gaze. "Stop staring at me. My girlfriend is beautiful. Why can't I look?" "Who's your girlfriend?" "Someone just agreed to it a minute ago." After dinner, we walked side by side down the street. The setting sun stretched our shadows long behind us. I subtly hooked my pinky around hers. When she didn't pull away, I grew bolder, sliding my fingers between hers and holding her hand firmly. Her hand was soft and warm, like holding a piece of smooth, heated jade. "Babe, want to get some ice cream?" Babe, there's a claw machine over there. Babe, slow down, I can't keep up. The nickname Babe rolled off my tongue more and more easily. Although she'd shoot me a playful glare every time and say, "You're so cheesy," her lips were always slightly turned up in a smile, and the hand holding mine would quietly squeeze a little tighter. I don't know how long we walked, but by the time I walked her to her dorm, it was already dark. The streetlights cast a soft glow around her, and her slightly flushed cheeks looked so beautiful in the light that I couldn't look away. So, I leaned in closer. "Can I have a kiss?" Her face turned beet red, her eyes darting around. "Isn't it too soon? It's not our first time," I reminded her matter-of-factly. Her eyelashes fluttered. After a moment of hesitation, she finally closed her eyes and tilted her head up slightly, looking both nervous and expectant. And then, I gently flicked her on the forehead. "Just kidding. Next time." I laughed and took 2 steps back, watching her eyes fly open in surprise, her cheeks adorably flushed. I waved, completely satisfied. "Good night, Prez." Since that night outside her dorm, my relationship with Clara has been on fast forward. Before, in the SGA office, we were a proper president and subordinate. Now, when she was signing documents, I'd pull up a chair and sit right next to her, calling myself her exclusive presidential aide, but really just using it as an excuse to lean in and steal a kiss every now and then. "Ethan, I'm working." She'd protest like this every time, pretending to tap me with the pen in her hand, but never with any real force. "I know," I'd say, pointing at the files in front of her. "I'm just helping my president recharge her energy." She'd finally break into a smile, tapping my forehead lightly with the tip of her pen. "You and your excuses. It's scientifically proven that a kiss can improve work efficiency." I'd seize the opportunity to peck her on the lips, then quickly retreat, laughing triumphantly at her instantly blushing cheeks. Gradually, she actually got used to this. Sometimes, if I was being too well-behaved for too long, she'd turn to look at me with a confused expression, her eyes clearly asking, "Why aren't you messing with me today?" That's when I'd pull her into my arms and give her some proper compensation. We started appearing together in every corner of the campus, practically inseparable. In the cafeteria, I'd give her the sweet and sour pour from my plate, and she'd meticulously pick out the green peppers she didn't like and drop them in my bowl. "Picky eaters are no good," I'd say, putting on a serious face. "Then don't eat it," she'd retort, pretending to take them back. I'd quickly shield my bowl. "No way. This is a gift from my babe. I'd eat it even if it were poison." She'd burst out laughing and lightly kick me under the table. The library became our most frequent haunt. She would study, and I would nap at the table across from her. One time, I woke up to find her knit cardigan draped over me, carrying her signature elegant scent. I looked up and saw her diligently taking notes, the sunlight dancing on her eyelashes through the window. I couldn't resist reaching out and gently taking her hand that was resting on the table. Her pen paused. She looked up at me, her gaze soft. "You're awake?" "Yeah," I said, playing with her fingers. "Babe, you smell so good." Her ears immediately turned red. "We're in the library. Don't mess around," she whispered in warning. But even as she said it, she let me hold her hand until the librarian came to announce that they were closing. I got more and more comfortable calling her babe. She went from initial embarrassment to quiet acceptance. Now, when I teased her too much, she'd blush and quietly call me an annoying pest. One day, on the empty rooftop, I had her cornered in my arms, my nose brushing against hers. "Babe, one more kiss?" "No, we just kissed for a long time." "That was then. This is a new one. What kind of logic is that?" I smothered her complaints with another kiss. She pushed against me half-heartedly a couple of times before her arms softened and wrapped around my neck. We didn't break apart until we were both breathless. Looking at her glistening lips and hazy eyes, my heart melted into a puddle. She buried her hot face in the crook of my neck, mumbling, "You rogue." I held her tighter, my chin gently rubbing the top of her head. I thought my sweet daily life with Clara would continue like this forever until one Friday evening. We were in the small storage room behind the SGA office looking for some files. Actually, I had pulled her in there, using the files as an excuse to make out. Just as I had her pressed against a shelf and was leaning in for a kiss, the storage room door creaked open. Troy was standing in the doorway. His face went from shock to a grim shade of livid. He stared daggers at our intertwined hands, his expression so dark it looked like it could drip venom. "Excuse me," he squeezed out through his teeth before slamming the door shut. I shrugged, not thinking much of it. Is he still not over it? Why does he look like that every time he sees us? Clara gently pushed me away. "Don't say that." I thought that would be the end of it, but a week later, Clara and I were both summoned to our faculty advisor's office. The advisor pushed up his glasses, his expression serious. A student has reported that you two are dating within the student government, which is affecting the work environment. Specifically, Ethan, that you frequently distract Clara from her duties during office hours. I knew instantly who the snitch was. Professor, Clara spoke up first, we are dating, but that's entirely my personal life. As for work, while Ethan may get distracted sometimes, he has never failed to complete his assigned tasks. Yeah, Professor, I added, Clara and I like each other. That doesn't violate any school rules, does it? Is there some kind of no dating policy in the SGA bylaws? The advisor sighed. No, there isn't. It's just that a complaint was made, so we have to address it. As long as you can manage your work and your relationship properly, then... Professor, I suddenly interrupted him, I'd like to resign from the Student Government Association. Clara looked at me, shocked. I smiled at her, then turned back to the advisor. I only joined for the credits, but now I feel like it's a waste of time to be in a place full of backstabbing and politics every day. Those 2 credits? I don't want them anymore. After we left the advisor's office, Clara grabbed my arm. You don't have to do that. I wanted to quit for ages, I said, pinching her cheek. And isn't this perfect? From now on, I can come pick you up after your work is done, and we can date out in the open. But before that, there was one more thing I had to do. The next day, I waited outside the men's restroom for an hour until Troy finally came out. He saw me, his face changed, and he tried to walk away. I grabbed him, dragged him into the restroom, and locked the door behind us. Ethan, what do you want? He said, trying to act tough. I'm warning you. Warning me about what? I slammed him against the wall. Gonna go tattle? File another complaint? Pull some petty shit, you motherfucker. I finally let out the words I've been holding back and punched him square in the face. A piece of shit like you thinks you're worthy of Clara? He tried to fight back, but I was half a head taller than him, and the strength I'd built up from hauling speakers was no match for a vice president who only knew how to boss people around. I pinned him to the floor, aiming for the fleshy parts. You still gonna snitch? And no, I won't. You still gonna bother Clara? No, let go. I didn't let up until his face was bruised, and he was begging for mercy. I released him and watched him scramble to his feet. Remember this, I said, straightening my collar. If you ever mess with Clara again, I'll beat your ass every time I see you. Walking out of that restroom, I felt fantastic. 2 credits in exchange for a satisfying beatdown? That was a trade I'd make any day. Ever since quitting the SGA, I'd been thinking about one thing. I needed to give Clara a proper confession. Sure, we were already so sweet we could give us straight dog cavities, but every time I remembered that she was the one who first said, we can give it a try, I felt like I owed her. It just wasn't right for the girl to make the first move. And starting things so haphazardly just felt like it was missing something. Some kind of ceremony. But I was stumped on how to do it. Dinner, a movie, flowers? Too cliché. Candles and a guitar? Too cheesy. I was so stressed about it that I couldn't even focus on video games for days. Then, one night while scrolling through videos, I saw someone doing tie-dye. Watching the fabric bloom with unique patterns in the dye, an idea suddenly sparked. On New Year's Eve, I asked her to meet me at her usual coffee shop. When I arrived, she was sitting by the window, wearing headphones and gazing outside, her profile looking like a painting in the warm winter sun. I quietly walked up behind her and whispered in her ear, "What are you listening to?" She jumped. Then her eyes crinkled into a smile when she saw it was me. "You're here. Let me listen." I pointed to her earbuds. She obediently took one out and handed it to me. As I leaned down to put it in, I suddenly leaned in closer and gave her a quick peck on the lips. "Ethan," she gasped, covering her mouth as her ears turned bright red. She gently bumped my shoulder with her forehead. "There are people watching." I laughed and took her hand. "Come on, I'm taking you somewhere today." Our first stop was the Downtown Arts District. I had made a reservation at a DIY tie-dye studio. Amidst her surprise, I pulled out 2 plain white t-shirts. "Want to make a matching set with me?" During the tutorial, I was all thumbs, either tying the rubber bands too loosely or smearing the dye outside the lines. She laughed so hard she had to bend over. Finally, unable to watch anymore, she came up behind me, her hands covering mine, and guided me through tying the knots and applying the color. "I didn't know you were good at this," I said, my mind wandering as I took in the fresh scent of her hair. "You're just clumsy." She laughed softly, her breath tickling my ear. While we waited for the dye to set, we sat side by side in the studio's small courtyard. The winter sun was warm and pleasant. She rested her head on my shoulder, and I played with her fingers. Neither of us spoke, but it felt incredibly peaceful. When the finished products were revealed, we both gasped. The brilliant blue dye had spread across the shirts like fireworks in the night sky, or like waves in the deep sea. The best part was, when you put the two shirts together, the patterns formed a perfect heart. Is this? She looked at me, her eyes wide with delight. One of a kind, I said, raising an eyebrow, smugly. The only set in the whole world. It was dusk when we left the studio. I led her through the city's streets and alleyways. On the cobblestone paths of the old town, under the sycamore trees draped in fairy lights, in front of a sweet-smelling dessert shop. I used my phone to capture every happy moment. The way her eyes squinted when she licked her ice cream, her surprised expression watching a street performer, and the crescent moon shape of her eyes when I made her laugh. "Why are you taking so many pictures today?" she asked, tilting her head. "Because you look especially beautiful today," I said, putting my phone away and naturally taking her hand. "Come on, I'm taking you to one last place." When we were standing in front of the aquarium, her eyes widened in surprise. "It's still open this late?" "I arranged for a special private viewing," I said with a mysterious smile. The massive aquarium was empty, just the two of us surrounded by the silent, flowing blue water behind the glass. It felt like we were at the bottom of the ocean, surrounded by all sorts of marvelous sea creatures. Stingrays glided overhead like birds in water, clownfish darted through coral, and jellyfish pulsed with a faint, ethereal glow in the darkness. In the famous underwater tunnel, she looked up at a whale shark swimming slowly past, her eyes shining as if they were full of stars. Just then, her favorite song, Perfect by Ed Sheeran, began to play through the aquarium speakers. I walked over to her and pulled a small box from my pocket. It wasn't a ring, but an elegant necklace. The pendant was a tiny glass bottle containing a piece of the blue fabric we had dyed together today. "Clara Hayes," I said, taking a deep breath and calling her by her full name for the first time with such seriousness. Even though we met because of a strange dream, and even though I was the one who acted like a scoundrel in your dream first, and even though you were the one who said we could give it a try, I have to be the one to say this to you. I dropped to one knee, looking up at her astonished face. "Will you officially be my girlfriend? Not just a haphazard trial run, but the real deal. The kind where I apologize first when we fight, bring you an umbrella when it rains, and warm your hands in the winter." She stood stunned for a few seconds, then broke into a laugh, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. She pulled me to my feet and nodded gently. "I was ready for this the day you said you'd take responsibility." I put the necklace on for her, and we held each other in the deep blue underwater world. Through the glass, a sea turtle watched us curiously before slowly swimming away. "I think he's wishing us well," she whispered against my chest. "Yeah," I said. "Even the animals can see we're perfect for each other." That night, she didn't go back to campus. As we stood side by side on the small balcony of my apartment, watching the New Year's Eve fireworks explode in the night sky, I could still feel my heart hammering in my chest. "Did you make a wish?" she shouted over the sound of a bursting firework. "I did." I leaned close to her ear. "I wished I could watch the fireworks with you every year." She smiled, and in the flashing light, initiated a kiss. Later, after we had both showered and were lying side by side in my bed, I felt as nervous as a rookie soldier on his first mission. The mattress dipped slightly with the weight of another person. She was wearing my t-shirt, the wide collar revealing her delicate collarbones, and she smelled of the same body wash I used. I promise I'll just sleep," I said stiffly, staring up at the ceiling. She let out a soft laugh and turned to face me. "So you get nervous too?" Who's nervous?" Before I could finish, her hand was on my waist. A jolt like an electric current shot through me, and my whole body went rigid. "Ethan," her voice was incredibly soft in the darkness. "I had a really good time today." I turned over, my eyes meeting her sparkling ones in the dim light. All my nervousness vanished in that moment. I reached out and pulled her into my arms, and she rested her head on my chest trustingly. It started with a gentle kiss, but quickly deepened. My hand instinctively began to trace patterns on her back, and I felt her tremble slightly. "Is this okay?" I asked breathlessly between kisses. She didn't answer, only held me tighter. The rest of the memory is a blur of heat and passion. I remember her soft whimpers in my ear, the way she clutched the sheets, and the scratches she left on my back in the heat of the moment. When we were finally, truly one, I gently kissed away the tears from the corners of her eyes. "Did it hurt?" She shook her head, burying her face in the crook of my neck. "Be gentle," she whispered. Afterward, I carried her to the bathroom to clean up. She was so exhausted she could barely open her eyes, letting me dry her off like a small child. When we got back to bed, she fell asleep almost instantly, curled up in my arms, her breathing even and steady. The next morning, I woke up to the sunlight. I looked down and saw that she had woken up at some point and was hiding half her face under the covers, just her eyes peeking out, quietly watching me. "What are you looking at?" I smiled, reaching for the blanket. She pulled it tighter, her voice muffled. "Watching you sleep." I leaned over and kissed her forehead through the blanket. "Good morning, girlfriend." She squirmed a little under the covers and slowly pulled them down, revealing a flushed face. "Good morning." In that moment, looking at her messy hair and shy eyes, I felt like my whole world had lit up. "Babe," I said softly, "we're like a newlywed couple." She smiled. We stayed in bed, talking about nothing important, sharing silly childhood memories like two kids who had discovered a hidden treasure. Some people say that college relationships are like brilliant fireworks, beautiful but fleeting. But for Clara and me, it seemed we were the exception. The year we graduated, while everyone else was scattering to pursue their careers, I got an offer from a tech company in Austin, and Clara was accepted into a master's program at Columbia in New York. "Long distance," I said, holding her tightly on the train platform the day she left, unwilling to let go. "I hear long-distance relationships are really hard." She laughed softly in my arms, her fingers gently combing through the hair at the back of my neck. "Are you going to make it hard for me?" "Of course not," I said, kissing the top of her head. "I promise to call you every day, visit you once a month, never have dinner alone with a female coworker, and hand over my entire paycheck." She laughed at my antics, though her eyes were shining with tears. Being apart was harder than we imagined. I rented a small apartment in Austin, and my greatest comfort at the end of each day was video calling her. She would show me new dresses she bought, tell me funny stories from her lab, and sometimes, late at night, her voice would crack with emotion because she missed me. But I never doubted our relationship. The first thing I did every month after getting paid was buy a plane ticket to New York. Sometimes it was just to have dinner with her before catching an early flight back to Austin the next morning. My friends all said I was crazy, spending half my monthly salary just to see her for a few hours. But every time I saw her running towards me at the airport arrivals gate, I knew it was all worth it. In her second year of grad school, Clara got a prestigious 6-month research fellowship in San Francisco. She hesitated for a long time before telling me, worried that upgrading from long distance to cross country would be too much for our relationship to handle. I watched her anxious face on the video call and laughed. "Silly, do you know how long I've been waiting for this day?" She looked confused. "I've been saving up my vacation days," I said, proudly waving a folder at the camera. "It's just enough to spend 2 months in California with you." On the other end of the call, she covered her mouth, and tears immediately started to flow. Those 2 months in San Francisco were like a long honeymoon. We rented a used car and drove down the Pacific Coast Highway. We watched the sunset on the beach in Santa Barbara, searched for our favorite celebrities' handprints on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and got completely soaked at SeaWorld in San Diego. One night, at a B&B in Carmel by the Sea, we sat on the balcony wrapped in the same blanket, stargazing. She leaned her head on my shoulder and said suddenly, "Ethan, let's get married." I was stunned for a moment, then I laughed. "That's supposed to be my line." "Does it matter who says it?" she said, turning to look at me, her eyes sparkling in the night. She was right, it didn't matter, because we both knew, long ago, that we were it for each other. After she returned, we finally ended our long-distance relationship. I found a new job in New York, and we started truly living together. We went from fumbling beginnings, her burning dinner, me ruining her silk blouse in the wash, to a seamless partnership. She cooked, I did the dishes. She hung the laundry, I mopped the floors. On lazy weekend mornings, we'd play rock, paper, scissors to decide who had to go buy breakfast. On the sofa late at night, we'd playfully argue over what movie to watch. These mundane, everyday moments made me happier than any grand romantic date ever could. This spring, we bought an apartment in the city. On moving day, I found the 2 tie-dye t-shirts at the bottom of a box. After all these years, the blue had faded a bit, but when you put them together, you could still see the complete heart. "You still have these?" Clara asked, taking the shirts in surprise. "Of course," I said, pulling her into my arms. "This is the proof of our love." She smiled and hugged the shirts to her chest, her eyes shining. "Ethan, you know what? I've never once regretted that dream." "Me neither," I said, kissing her forehead. Last night, I dreamed of that scene again, her in her professional outfit, bent over to pick up a pen in the office. But this time, the dream didn't end abruptly. In the dream, I helped her pick up the pen, then got down on one knee and pulled out a ring. "Clara Hayes, will you marry me?" The Clara in my dream smiled so happily. "Yes." When I woke up this morning, I found Clara propped up on her elbow, watching me with a tender look in her eyes. "I dreamed about you last night," we said at the same time, then both froze. After we told each other our dreams, We looked at each other and smiled. The sunlight streamed through the curtains, warm and bright. "So," I said, pulling her into my arms, "does the proposal and the dream count?" She tilted her face up in the morning light and kissed my chin. "What do you think?" Outside the window, the London plane trees of New York were budding with new leaves. Our story, which began with an absurd dream, had brought us to this day. And I knew this was far from the end, because the best part is always in the next chapter.